In our job, we see a lot of bad stuff, and this is bad. This is also hard on the police officers who are working that there. It's not natural to see that sort of thing, and I'm sure they were as shocked as a lot of the people are, in this room.
9 people are dead, including the gunman, after a shooting rampage in southeast Missouri. Good evening, I'm Brittany Pieper.
And I'm Sheila Ramin. Thanks so much for joining us. That was Sergeant Jeff Kinder of the State Highway Patrol at a news conference this morning. The shootings took place in Texas and Shannon counties, about 95 miles east of Springfield. The Missouri State Highway Patrol is working with the Texas County Sheriff's Department to investigate the shootings. We have multiple reporters in the area. Desiree Seals has the reactions from the community on this horrific shooting. But for the very latest, let's go to Lina Young. Lina, what can you tell us about this?
About 90 minutes ago, we learned more about the shooter, identified as 36-year-old Joseph Jesse Aldridge. Here's a picture of Aldridge. He's the son of Alice Aldridge, one of the people found dead, although Missouri State Highway Patrol says it looks like she died of natural causes. Aldridge is believed to be a cousin of at least 4 of the victims. There's no word yet on a possible motive for the shootings. Earlier, Sergeant Jeff Kinder of the Missouri State Highway Patrol talked about the tragedy and how his troopers were handling the crime scenes.
In our job, we see a lot of bad stuff, and this is bad. This is also hard on the police officers who are working that there. It's not natural to see that sort of thing, and I'm sure they were as shocked as a lot of the people are, in this room.
KOMU has learned there will be an autopsy performed tomorrow on Alice Aldridge, Jesse's mother. Again, authorities believe she died of natural causes. Reporting live in Houston, Missouri, Lina Young, KOMU 8 News.
Governor Nixon released a statement about the shooting, saying in part, quote, "Our Department of Mental Health has contacted the local community mental health center to ensure crisis intervention services will be provided to students in the area, and counseling and other services will be available to students in need." Senator Claire McCaskill also reacted, saying, "I know the people of Texas County, folks like my dad, to be strong and kind. I know they'll pull together in the face of these tragic events, and I'll be joining all Missourians in praying for the people of Tyrone tonight."
We reached out to the people of Texas County to see their reactions to the mass homicide. KOMU 8's Desiree Seals tells us how this community is handling the tragedy.
Flags are flying half-staff here in Houston, Missouri, just outside of Tyrone. Local residents say that today has been quiet and somber for the people here. There's a religious spirit here, as it seems many are turning to their faith to get through this tragedy. Several people have said that Houston and the surrounding areas are a tight-knit community.
A lot of people are kind of dealing with it in their own way. They're talking and giving each other hugs and stuff like that. People where I work know the family, so that's bad. How do you comfort someone like that?
Wilhelm also said that through this tragic event, this tight-knit community hopes to overcome this. Reporting live in Houston, Missouri, Desiree Seals, KOMU 8 News.
We have a timeline of events, plus more details about the victims in the shooting, as well as more reaction from the community on our website, KOMU.com. A fire burned a multi-family home to the ground earlier this morning on the Lake of the Ozarks. KOMU 8's Genevieve Rayome is in the studio to tell us why within minutes of firefighters arriving, the house was already lost.
When I showed up this morning, the multi-family home was essentially burned to the ground. A neighbor was taking photos and said the residents weren't there too often, but when the owners do come back, they will see their house as nothing like they left it. Icicles still hang from what remains of this multi-family home, but the strength of the cold couldn't stop this fire from turning this home into ashes. In fact, Sunrise Beach Fire Chief Dennis Riley said the single-digit cold slowed their ability to put out the fire. When the firefighters arrived, they did their best under the conditions, but sometimes it was their own tools that turned against them.
Flowing water is much more harder to freeze. With that being said, you continue to flow water on the ground that's 2 degrees out and you get ice out there. So it's just a problem.
Riley said the damage was so extensive that this may be one of those times where they're unable to determine what caused it.
Brace yourself. We do expect more snow this weekend, so let's send it over to Sydney Jackson for a look at the forecast.
Yes, we do have some snow in store for us. Let's go ahead and take a look at our current temperatures out there. 20 in Columbia, 19 over in Boonville, 22 over in Jefferson City. We have a little bit of cloud cover moving on in for this evening. That's going to continue on over into our Saturday, but overnight tonight we're going to cool down to right around 11 degrees. It's going to be pretty chilly out there, so if you're headed out this evening, you may want to bundle up. We'll have light winds coming from the east, 5 to 10 miles an hour. Coming up, I'll give you your forecast for this weekend with the snow expected for Saturday night and Sunday.
Governor Nixon appointed John Watson as the interim state auditor today, just one day after former state auditor Tom Schweik committed suicide at his home. Details as to why Schweik shot himself have started to come out. KOMU 8's Michael Dowden is in the studio trying to make sense of what happened.
Some wonder why a man a month into a run for governor would kill himself. But new information today tells us that he believed party leaders were whispering behind his back. And we know he called multiple reporters to set up interviews just minutes before he shot himself.
My understanding of suicide is that there's oftentimes sort of a cocktail of different reasons that are involved.
We may never know what motivated Tom Schweik to kill himself.
He thought a whispering campaign going on about his religion or about other parts of his personal life. We just really don't know.
Schweik was known as an outsider, even within the Republican Party, and did not get along well with new party chair John Hancock, who he believed was spreading rumors that he was Jewish.
We don't know what sort of personal demons that might have unleashed inside of him as he dealt with, as he thought anyway, this whispering campaign.
If he faced private political whisperings, then why call reporters shortly before his death?
That seems unusual to me. But then taking your life seems unusual to me.
Historically, politicians commit suicide when faced with a scandal or physical illness. But Schweik's case?
Doesn't add up given what we know about the historical cases that we have.
As more details emerge over the coming days and weeks, we may get a clear picture into the mindset of Tom Schweik. But we may never know every detail.
True that people, even elected officials, deserve a certain amount of privacy about these matters.
Tom Schweik's funeral takes place next Tuesday in his hometown of Clayton.
The recent events in Ferguson provided ample opportunity for discussion today at a symposium hosted by MU Law School. It featured panelists discussing police militarization, racial profiling, and personal experiences with law enforcement. One of the panelists was former St. Louis police officer who now works for the NAACP. He criticized law enforcement's response to the Michael Brown shooting, saying police departments need to change their culture to avoid future problems like this. No current law enforcement officials were represented on the panel. And yesterday's historic ruling by the Federal Communications Commission will benefit internet users in a variety of ways. The FCC ruled 3-2 in favor of net neutrality, a debate that's been going on for years. The ruling will put internet service under the same category as utility companies and prohibit internet service providers from giving faster internet access to companies that pay the privilege. Some say they agree with the decision.
I think net neutrality will protect our freedom of speech, which is important to keep us exposed and up to date with current events.
Those against the ruling include companies such as AT&T, Time Warner Cable, and Comcast. The new regulations are set to be published in the Federal Register soon and become effective 60 days after publication. The U.S. Congress hopes to avoid the shutdown of Department of Homeland Security, and the second round of U.S.-Cuba negotiations are underway. Brianna Stubler has those stories and more in your First Nation News.
In less than 6 hours, funding for the Department of Homeland Security will run out, and the clock is now ticking louder than ever. About an hour ago, the House of Representatives voted against a bill that would temporarily fund the department. Earlier in the day, the Senate overwhelmingly passed the bill without provisions by House Republicans to stop President Obama's executive actions related to immigration. The U.S. and Cuba held a second round of negotiations to restore diplomatic relations this morning at the Senate Department in Washington, D.C. One of Cuba's prime objectives is to be removed from the U.S. terrorism blacklist. The presence on the list makes it impossible for Cuba to conduct banking and other businesses in the U.S. But Washington is still deciding whether Cuba's designation as a terrorist state is outdated. And the man known as Mr. Spock has died. Leonard Nimoy passed away earlier today. Nimoy played the iconic role of Spock in the original Star Trek TV series in the 1960s, where his Vulcan salute and motto, "Live long and prosper," became part of pop culture lore. Nimoy was 83 years old. And that's your first look around the nation.
Patients suffering from depression, chronic pain, and PTSD have a new therapy option. It might surprise you.
You're looking live over the Lake of the Ozarks. It's 5:09. This is KOMU 8 News, first at 5, coverage you can count on.